Hi, my name's Sharon, and today I'm here with my friend Isla.
Hi.
And we're going to talk about birds. So Isla, I have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
What do you think makes a bird a bird?
I guess I might have to think about it, really.
Do you think it's because they fly?
Well, insects fly, so no.
Good point. Do you think it's because they lay eggs?
Well, fish lay eggs, so I wouldn't say that.
Very true. Fish do lay eggs. Do you think it's because birds have feathers?
Maybe, yeah, because I can't think of anything else that has feathers.
Yeah, a bird is a bird because it has feathers. Let's take a look at this feather over here. I'm going to hand you this magnifying glass.
Okay.
It has a light on it too. And I want you to take a look at these feathers.
It's very pretty.
Have you ever found a feather on the ground?
Of course.
Have you ever wondered what it was made out of?
Yeah, I think so.
Here, I want you to hold this feather and bend it really softly. Feel how strong it is?
Mhm.
Did you know that feathers are made out of something called keratin?
No.
Keratin is a protein that birds make in their bodies. We also make keratin. Our hair is made out of keratin. Our fingernails and our toenails are made out of keratin. Can you think of any other animals that make keratin in their bodies?
Well, does it include like horns? And
It does.
so I would say goats have keratin.
That's right. Goats can definitely have keratin. So if you look at this feather, we can separate each one of these tiny pieces, and then we can also straighten them back up so that the bird can fly. The bird flies easier when you pull the feathers together, and then it's harder for the bird to fly when you pull the feathers apart. And if we take a magnifying glass, we can really see the insides of a feather.
Wow.
Pretty cool, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at some of these pictures over here. Feathers have very interesting characteristics that can help them do all kinds of things. So in this first picture, this bird is diving really, really deep in the water, and his feathers help him stay waterproof and warm as he dives deep and then resurfaces. Can you think of other things that help us stay warm, maybe when we're in water, or help us stay waterproof?
Bathing suits can help.
That's right, yeah. Bathing suits, wetsuits, diving suits. And in this picture, this cardinal is staying warm during a snowstorm. Can you think of things that we might wear to stay warm during a snowstorm?
Jackets and coats, and I've seen someone walk outside with a blanket on.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. Or maybe we'll bundle up in a blanket and sit outside on our porch if it's really cold.
Mm-hmm.
And then what about this last picture? Can you even see the bird in this picture?
Barely, it's very hidden.
Do you know what kind of bird that is?
I believe it's an owl.
That's right. So this owl is using his feathers to stay camouflaged. Camouflage is when a bird uses his feathers to stay hidden. What is he trying to hide from? Why is it important for birds to have camouflage on their feathers?
Because there's a lot of predators in the wild.
That's right. There's a lot of predators, and sometimes they try to stay hidden from us too, right? And then this picture over here, that is a male painted bunting and a female painted bunting. And it's important for the male to use his feathers to attract a mate. His feathers are very brightly colored to Have you ever seen a painted bunting?
Unfortunately, no, but I believe that they are very beautiful.
Yes, they are, and they're all around our area. And in this last photo, this bluebird is staying warm and waterproofing himself from the rain. And we already talked about some ways that we stay waterproof, right? Umbrellas, raincoats, rain boots. So these birds are all using their feathers to help them out in the environment. And we're going to learn the different parts of a feather next so that we can go into that. And if you look over here at this picture, you can see that there are different parts of the feather. This is the follicle. This part is the quill. This is the shaft that goes up into the feather. These are the different veins of the feather. And if you look closely, if you took a magnifying glass and looked at the veining, you will see that the veining has barbs, which are this part right here. And the barbules kind of go in this crisscross direction right here. And the barb and the barbules are kind of like this piece of Velcro. So if you tear this piece of Velcro apart and put it back together, the Velcro acts kind of like it interlocks and then it comes apart. So the feathers would be inside of here. The barb and the barbules can separate when I go this direction, and then when I go this direction, they can close up. And it's important that birds' feathers stay straight like this. We don't want to see a bird's feathers like this because they have trouble flying. They're not as aerodynamic, which just means that they can't fly as well when the feathers are separated. So we have the vein, we have these shafts, we have the quill, which is this part right here, and then the follicle, which is the very tip point. When I say the word quill, what do you think about?
Like Harry Potter when they write with
Exactly, yeah. Sometimes in movies, or if you've ever watched a movie about history, you'll see some people using feathers to write with. And they use the part of the feather that's called the quill, and they dip it in their ink and they'll write letters. So that's right. Harry Potter is a great example. We're going to do a really fun activity. I want you to hold this feather and hold it down a little bit, and I'm going to put a couple drops of water on the feather.
Okay.
All right. Do you see how the drops of water, if you want to hold it up here, see how these drops of water just kind of stay on the feather? They don't go through, and they don't run off either. So feathers have this really important oil on them that the bird makes, and that oil helps the water to stay off the feather. Then we can just tip it sideways and it'll just run off. So this oil is very important for the birds to stay waterproof. And it's also very important that birds preen their feathers, because preening is like cleaning their feathers. And when they preen their feathers, they kind of spread that oil onto their feathers, and it helps them stay more waterproof. So why is it important? Like, what happens if a bird has motor oil on their feathers? How is that going to affect their preening process?
I don't know.
Well, birds that have motor oil or oil from oil spills in the ocean, they will continuously preen their feathers. And by doing that, they'll eat a lot of the oil that's on their feathers, and they can get really sick. Also, if you think about it, motor oil that gets trapped on their feathers is not natural, and so the feathers are going to stick and clump together like this. And it's going to make it really hard for the bird to fly, for the bird to swim, or sometimes even for the bird to see, because the oil gets trapped in and around their eyes.
That's terrible.
It is. It's really sad, and sometimes it is very terrible to see these birds. And there's a lot of organizations out there that will go out and help the birds and wash them with soap and re-release them into the environment. But it is very important that we keep our environment clean and safe for birds at all times. Feathers also have very fancy patterns like this one. Do you know what kind of feather this is? What bird it belongs to?
I believe it's a peacock.
That's right, it's a peacock. Have you ever seen a peacock, Isla?
I have.
Awesome. So feathers come in all different types of patterns and colors, and peacocks are a great example of all the different colors and beauty of different birds. So we're going to learn about different patterns that birds' feathers can have. And if you see here, this is my friend the wood duck. And this wood duck was once alive. He has since been stuffed with a process called taxidermy. And if you look closely at the wood duck, you'll see that he has some beautiful specks, dots on his front chest right here, and they flow into these beautiful barred feathers down the side. And he also has a red eye and a reddish beak and a beautiful green tuft on his head with some purple around his eye and some purple underneath that green. Then he has a white chin, kind of like a chin strap. And he's got some downy feathers on his legs. And beautiful blue feathers on his tail right here. And I can spread those out so everyone can see. And he has more barring underneath his wing, this black and white barring right there. That's absolutely gorgeous. Wood ducks are beautiful animals that you can find on our coast here in North Carolina. They're very hard to find. They're very skittish. Any time there's a loud noise, they will fly away. And this is our wood duck. I want you to come closer and take a look at what I have here. Have you ever seen a hummingbird in real life?
Yes.
Look how tiny they can be.
Very.
You're gonna hold out your hand.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the ruby-throated hummingbird, and they are endemic to our area. And if you see here, his green is picking up the light, and that's called iridescence. Do you know what iridescence means?
Yes, I do. It's kind of when it's sparkly or metallic or shiny, basically.
Yeah, so iridescence is the way in which the light hits the feathers. Do you see that red?
Mm-mm.
Right there.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like a ruby.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well,
if I turn him different ways, he kind of lights up in all different directions, which is absolutely beautiful and different.
I just saw the entire bottom of him.
Yeah, he
red.
kind of lights up like that.
That's really cool.
And so male ruby-throated hummingbirds, which is what this little guy is, will move his head in a way to reflect that red. So when he's trying to attract a mate, or when he's searching for food, or maybe he's being very protective over a hummingbird feeder, he will flash that red. Do you have any hummingbird feeders at home?
Unfortunately, no. I think we do have one bird feeder though, but I don't know which type of bird it's for.
That's okay. Sometimes I have bird feeders at home, and I didn't a year or two ago, but now I have a bunch of bird feeders at home. It's just something interesting to look at, and I'm sure if you go to your grandparents' house or someone who has time to fill the feeders, you'll see a lot of birds at their feeders. I also would like to do an experiment with you. So come over here, and I want you to close your eyes. Okay. Open your hand, and I'm going to actually open both of your hands. Keep your eyes really closed. I'm going to drop some feathers in your hand, and I want you to tell me which hand, with your eyes closed, which hand did I drop them in? Your right hand or your left hand? Okay, open them.
Whoa.
Did you feel the feathers hit your fingers?
No.
That's because these are downy feathers, and the downy feathers are located underneath the bird, kind of on its belly and also on its legs. And downy feathers are super important because they keep the bird warm, and they also keep baby birds really warm too. And I wanted you to think about what other types of things that we use either in our house or maybe you see at the store that have down feathers inside of it.
Pillows?
Yeah, pillows, comforters. What about something we wear? What has downy feathers that we wear?
I can imagine there's a couple jackets that probably...
A winter coat?
Yeah.
How about sleeping bags? Have you ever gone camping before?
Yes.
Sometimes sleeping bags have these really warm downy feathers inside of them, and they're really thin, so they pack up nice and light, but then they also provide an incredible amount of warmth to our bodies. How about baby birds? Let's talk about baby birds. Have you ever found or seen a baby bird?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like? And where were you?
I was in my neighborhood, and there's a bunch of baby birds just flying. That was pretty cool to watch them.
Oh, cool. So they were flying around. Were they chirping for food from their mothers? Yeah. So you probably saw something called a fledgling, and I wanted to show you some pictures. The first picture is of a nestling baby bird, and he has no feathers on him. Nestling baby birds are typically birds that are still in the nest. Their parents are feeding them around the clock. They have to eat twice every half hour, I'm pretty sure, every hour. They're constantly feeding. And they have no feathers, their eyes are closed, and they're pretty much naked baby birds. So if you find these birds on the ground, it's really important that if you can reach the nest, that you put them back in the nest safely. The second phase that baby birds go through they're called hatchlings, and hatchlings have these cute little downy feathers all over their bodies, and their eyes are slightly open, and they are eating constantly. The mom and the daddy birds are constantly going in and out of the nest to feed them. And then the last phase of a baby bird is a fledgling, which is what you just described. So fledglings typically hop on the ground for a couple hours to a couple days. Then they'll need to be perched on a branch for a little while, and then eventually they'll learn to fly. And their feathers are a mixture of downy feathers and adult feathers. Their eyes are fully open and their coloring hasn't come in all the way. So sometimes you'll see a little bluebird that still has gray or black on its wings. Sometimes you'll see a wren or a finch that isn't fully colored, and you're like, oh, what kind of bird is that? I've never seen you before. And that's typically a fledgling bird, like what you saw. So in talking about different parts of feathers that baby birds need, we talked about these feathers up here. Do you know which part I'm pointing to right here, Isla? This would be his wing feathers. His wings are tucked down a little bit, but these are the wing feathers. Where would the tail feathers be? Can you point on the bird?
Down here.
That's right. And the wing and the tail feathers are really important because that's what's really going to help the bird fly. And we talked about downy feathers, so here are his downy feathers right in here. This is something interesting that I recently learned. Do you know what the temperature is of a bird?
No, I do not.
So a bird has an internal temperature of 105 degrees.
Wow.
That's really warm, right? Do you know what temperature our bodies are?
No.
So our bodies regulate right at about 98 degrees. Obviously, if we're sick and we have a fever, it's going to be like 101 to 102. But if we had a fever of 105, that would be super dangerous. We would have to go see a doctor.
Hospital.
So why do you think birds have such a high temperature? Why is that useful for them?
I don't know.
So birds have a high temperature because of their size. They're a lot smaller than us for one thing, so they have to keep their bodies at a certain warmth. And birds' temperatures definitely fluctuate. They're not always going to be at 105. Sometimes birds that are in the water, in the middle of the ocean, their body temperature will regulate at a different temperature. Also, baby birds, they need it much warmer than adult birds do. So in the nest, it can be anywhere from 115 to 120 degrees inside of their nest.
Crazy.
Yeah. So if you ever do find a baby bird on the ground, the first thing to do is to put it back in its nest if you can see a nest. If you can't see a nest and it has to go to a rehab shelter, you would wrap it in a warm blanket or a heating blanket, and you would transport it using the heat in your car. Never turn on the air conditioning, and never bring a baby bird inside of your home because it's really cold inside of our houses, especially in the summertime. We have the AC running.
So Isla, let's review some of the feather adaptations that we learned today. The first adaptation that we learned is about keratin. So keratin, along with the hooks and the barbs of a feather, make birds strong and able to fly. Birds have natural oils on their feathers, and those natural oils help birds stay waterproof. Another adaptation that we learned was about the patterns and the colors on a bird's feather. Those patterns and colors help to attract a mate. And feathers that are camouflage help to protect the bird from its enemies. And the last adaptation about feathers that we learned today is that their down feathers provide warmth and insulation for the bird.
So thanks so much, Isla. Thanks for learning about feathers with me today.
Thank you for teaching me.